Hello and welcome everybody to the blue iteration of this little set review I'm doing here. Constructed set review. We're looking especially at historic, at alchemy and standard, less onto the older formats. What blue cards might have an impact, what is a miss, what is a hit. Yeah, that is what I'm trying to get at here. Alright, before we dive into the top 5, let's have some honorable mentions. And for that, let's remove my camera so you can see everything well. Alright, first up on the list, or not on the list, didn't quite make the list. Kyrie the Swirling Sky, the 6-mana 6/6 dragon with ward 3 and some powerful triggered abilities when it dies. This card is powerful, of course, but it is also 6 mana. And hey, we're pragmatic, we're practical. 6 mana is a lot of mana to pay. And the ward 3 is a nice little bonus that protects, makes it better against removal. But hey, when my opponent has Vanishing Verse or Bounce, it's still gonna cost, it's still gonna just cost like 5 mana, so you're gonna trade down. The card is a little better than the other dragons against those types of interaction spells, but I don't think it makes up for the card overall. I think a great comparison to Kyrie the Swirling Sky would be Imrit out of the Dungeons Dragons set, which is a 5/5 dragon for 5 and has ward 4 at the moment it enters the battlefield and stays untapped. And ward 4 on a 5-drop is a lot better than ward 3 on a 6-drop. And Imrith already does not see much play at all. And I don't think that the death triggers of Kyrie the Swirling Try make the card much better than Imrith. And again, with these big dragons, with these big creatures, you gotta look at the format. You gotta look at the format as a whole. What is the interaction that is seeing play? If everyone is playing cheap burn spells or fight spells and Doomblade effects, then these dragons might all of a sudden become really good. But if people are playing exiling, bounce, counter spells, these dragons are bad. So it's always a context-dependent thing. Next up, Invoke Divines. The quadruple blue card, the sorcery of this here in blue, we have gain control of target artifact or creature, untap it. I love the little extra sentence of untap it, because if you've played before with gain control effects, if you're behind sometimes and you steal their best creature, but it has just attacked you, it's kind of tough because you might be killing something from the opponent, but in a way by gaining control of it, but it doesn't block for a turn, and that might still leave you too far behind. I think this card is very good in a vacuum, but again, context dependent. I don't see it being so good right now in this format. The format has a lot of very efficient creatures with Enter the Battlefield or Haste that already have effects. It doesn't have that many clunky 5-drop type of things. You know, like if everyone would be playing the dragon, the white dragon, then a card like Invoke Divines would be amazing. They play Ow, you just steal it, have it on your board. I mean, that's just really, really good. But if people are playing cheap creatures that have Into the Battlefield triggers that are efficient and so on, then it's tough. And also Snakeskin Veil, yeah? Like, of course, green is one of the colors where a gain control effect is the best. But with Snakeskin Veil, you get blown up so badly with Invoke Divines. So I don't think it's going to see much play. And the mana, we haven't even talked about the mana constraints. I mean, you basically can only play this in a mono blue deck. Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant. People have been hyped up about this fella. 7 mana 5/5. And copies the first artifact, instant, and sorcery spell that you cast, and counters the first artifact, instant, sorcery that your opponent casts. Only triggers once each turn. Makes sense, of course. So this one, I think, has a powerful static ability that can be very good, but we're talking about a 7-drop sorcery card here. I mean, we have Hullbreaker Horror, for example, in Alchemy and Standard. That is quite the card. It has Flash. In Standard, it's still uncounterable. Flash is huge on like, I mean, Flash makes the card much, much better. And just a 7-mana sorcery speed card. You can play around that in various different ways. And I only see, like against an aggressive creature deck, this would just be too slow. Against a control deck, I mean, good luck sticking this. Against counterspells? Are you kidding me? And even in game 1, where your opponent is then sitting on all their Doomblade effects in their hand, then they can just kill it. They can just throw Divine Purge. Okay, that's gonna get countered. And then the next one, Fateful Absence, and it's gone. You know what I mean? Like, I can only imagine very specific scenarios where you maybe cheat this card into play early, and they are very reliant on sorceries and instants, and then you can really mess someone up. But it seems rather specific, and maybe a commander thing, but not really for constructed at all. Maybe in a reanimator deck. Next slide, we have Moon Circuit Hacker, a little innocent common enchantment creature, human ninja, 2-mana 2/1 ninjutsu for 1 blue. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless Moon Circuit Hacker enter the battlefield this turn. So basically, the first time it hits, you get to draw a full card and replace itself, sort of, with. And, I mean, anyone who has played with, I think it's called Ninja of Deep Hours, knows that this is kind of a cool effect. You play your 1-mana 1/1, and a flyer or evasion creature, usually with these ninjutsu cards, attack, then flash in the Circuit Hacker. It's a 2/1, and you get to draw a card, replace itself, and then you just play your 1-mana flyer again. And yeah, and then in the future, it's a looter. I think this card definitely could see play in if ninjutsu is a thing, in like a blue tempo style deck. But it's not incredibly powerful, but I just wanted to put it here because I think it's useful. Next up, we have 2 reprints, Essence Capture and Thirst for Knowledge. Essence Capture, I mean, I've been talking about wanting to have an Essence Scatter for a while. This is the Essence Scatter. It is a little difficult to cast, that's the unfortunate part, but you might still be able to make it work. And honestly, like, take that, Townraiser Tyrant. Take that, Lear, all the other creatures. There's so many powerful creatures, especially in Alchemy, that it is nice to have this clean creature answer that might see play over, for example, Disdain for Stroke. Then Thirst for Knowledge. I mean, we already have this in Historic. It's just a good tool for the Kamigawa set, of course. If you're playing an artifact-themed deck, this is probably going to be a good card in your deck if you're playing a little bit of a slower game plan and you want to draw some cards instead of just being super aggressive and beat down in like a bluish mid-rangey deck. This seems pretty fantastic. I mean, Thirst for Knowledge is just a great card. There's not much to say about it, honestly. All right, I think it's time to jump to our top 5. We have another common here. Blue delivers some power in the common department. On number 5, we have Disruption Protocol with the lovely blue mana symbols already, which make me excited. This one is not quite counterspell yet, but it's getting quite close to it in the right deck. Imagine you play an artifact on turn 1, or in Historic, you can even just play an Ornithopter for 0 or a Tormod script for 0. And then on turn 2, you all of a sudden have yourself a counterspell, pretty much. I mean, tapping an untapped artifact is not that difficult in a deck that is dedicated to artifacts. And if you don't have that, worst case, it's just a 3-mana cancel, which is a fine card. You know, it's not great, but worst case is doable, absolutely. And the upside of this is pretty amazing. And I think the artifact decks, they're definitely going to play this. This slots in right with Thirst for Knowledge, and I can already see a deck building in front of me. We'll see what else we have in stock here on number 4, another artifact. The background of this picture. I mean, I guess you were already expecting this. By the way, I forgot to enable my camera. I suppose I can do so. We have some space here. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Interesting already. Okay, you get some extra information about what you draw. So if you have like a effect, if you can choose to scry or so on, or if you can mill your top card, you know about it with Reality Chip in play, and you can maybe manipulate your draws a little bit there, potentially. Not only that, for 3 mana, you can reconfigure, basically equip it to a creature, and as long as it's equipped, attached, you may play land and cast spells from the top of your library. So you basically can cast, you get access to the top of your library, which is super powerful in terms of generating card advantage. And not all on a 2-mana 0/4 artifact. Of course, this is not just good in any type of deck. I can't just put this in my blue control deck because you need a decent amount of things to equip it on. But say you're playing an artifact deck, a low to the ground artifact synergistic deck, or it doesn't even have to be an artifact deck necessarily, but any type of value-ish company, maybe band deck or so on, could just play a copy or two of Reality Chip, and especially the artifact decks, because there the artifact subtype adds up, and all of a sudden you have this early blocker in the early game that enables maybe your synergies, and then you can have in the late game an incredibly powerful effect that even if they kill the creature off that you attach this to, they will just still have you with the Reality Chip that you can attach to another creature. And that is just quite the card draw engine. I know this card is specific and conditional and contextual, but I think there's enough potential that I wanted to put it on a list, and there's some power in it for sure. All right, next one, Thousand-Faced Shadow. I was talking about 1-mana 1/1 flyers earlier, and this is the card we were looking for. Not only is this a ninja that enables all of our other ninjas, which is hugely important, right? We need those enabling creatures. It is also a payoff. So it does both things. It enables the ninjutsu, and it is ninjutsu itself. And honestly, the payoff does not even have to be as good here, because we're already getting the so necessary body on the 1/1. Let's see what the payoff is. When it attacks and it enters from the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, yeah. So basically, if you ninjutsu'd it, create a token as a copy of another target attacking creature. That token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. Which means that if you have any other vampire, why am I always saying vampire? Any other ninja, you will get a copy of that ninja, which is already unblocked and attacking, because this is post blockings, okay? So that ninja that you have attacking with you will likely also have an ability like like Thousand-Faced Shadow, not really this one maybe, but the hacker ability, any of the ninjutsu abilities, which means you will get another trigger out of them, that token dealing combat damage. And this token doesn't even leave the battlefield. Are you kidding me? This card is really, really good. And this, I mean, to be fair, 4-mana ninjutsu is a lot, but you get the token trigger instantly as well. So if you have two ninjas, you ninjutsu this in for one of them, copy the other, and then your opponent, even if they have a removal spell, right? Because this is what we have to think about with ninjutsu. It's a little vulnerable to cheap removal, because, you ninjutsu, and then when your opponent has a removal spell, that kind of sucks, because then you made this whole investment and you kind of get blown out. But with this card, if you have a ninja attacking, you get that token copy, or you... I suppose they can kill that other creature in response. Okay, fine. I was thinking for a second that, if it's a created token, so they can actually kill the other creature off. Okay, that makes the card a little fairer. Okay, it's less broken than I thought it is. Okay, never mind. I'll take that back. But it's still great. I mean, if they kill the other one off, that is a little annoying. But it is still a powerful effect. And after all, you're left with the 1/1 flyer again that you can then reuse for ninjutsu on the following turn. So that is a really nice part about this card. It has evasion in itself, and it has ninjutsu payoff in itself. That just makes it like an auto inclusion in every ninjutsu deck you're gonna see in Alchemy or Standard in the future. All right, number 2, another common, Moonsnare Prototype. 1-mana blue artifact. Tap an untapped artifact or creature you control, add 1 colorless. And then you also have the channel, which is less important on this one. But still, 5 mana, discard it, and you can put a non-land permanent on top of the owner's library. But they choose. So they can put it on top or bottom, if they want it or not. Just like with FIFA Gust. So, why is this so good? Why do I put this on rank 2? I think this card is going to see a ton of play across multiple formats. Cheap artifact enablers, first of all. You get an artifact for 1 blue. That's pretty good. And then it ramps you. what you need for that is another artifact, which you're likely probably going to play a lot of other cheap artifacts anyways, or a creature. So either creature or artifact. You know, if you have an artifact that comes into play, draws you a card, that just lays there, doesn't do anything. With this Moonsnare prototype, you get to use it for ramp. So you can place prototype on 1, and on 2 you play any creature or artifact, and on turn 3 you can play a 4-drop. That is quite a strong curve out. And maybe there's even a very, very powerful Planeswalker in the set that you can ramp out on turn 3 with this card. Maybe. But yeah, anyways, all around, you get an artifact, a cheap one, it ramps you. That is good. That is just all you want in your artifact deck. This is the type of enabling card you need and you want. And I think that's why it deserves the #1 slot. It looks innocent. It is a common, but it is gonna see a lot of play, I'm sure, and it's gonna enable these artifact decks, and it's very important to them. And on rank 1, kind of foreshadowed that one already, Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh. So we have a 2 blue Planeswalker, reminiscent of Jace the Mind Sculptor and the like. The first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate. That's the static ability right there. So that means something like a Mazemind Tome is a perfect example that comes to mind. Costs 0 all of a sudden. You can just activate Mazemind Tome and draw a card for 0. You can equip, you can reconfigure for 2 cheaper with Reality Chip and so on. It also works in the opponent's turn. So you can do this on your turn, use that that less mana, how do you call it, the less to activate, and then use it in the other turn as well. So you might even get an extra 4 mana out of just this static ability. We haven't even talked about the rest. I mean, yes, we're talking a little bit about Wonderland, but I'm giving you the potentials that it has. All right, so the +1 is draw 2, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. That is sort of like a First for Knowledge light. Draw 2. If you discard an artifact, you draw. You can discard that, and then you basically gained up a card, which is pretty good on a Planeswalker. You have 4 mana Planeswalker that draws you an extra card is quite strong, and goes up loyalty. And on the -2, we get a 4/4 creature out of an artifact. We can turn any of these small artifacts we have lying around into a quite sized creature. I mean, this card, all around, just first ability, card advantage. Second ability, you get a creature that can beat down with haste already, because the artifact already was in play, likely. And pressure the opponent's control decks, protect your own Planeswalker, perhaps, against a creature deck. I mean, this card is outrageously good in an artifact deck, already with those 2 abilities. And then you get a fairly cheap emblem as well, with -6. Whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, draw a card. I mean, that's infinite card advantage for the rest of your life. But I think if you get to the -6, you probably have already enough cards. But that's how it is with emblems anyways, right? If you have your Planeswalker in play for a couple turns, you're probably winning anyways. But yeah, this is just an overall powerhouse of a card. Makes a 4/4 when it comes to play. Card advantage on the plus. I mean, what is not to love about this? The only really, the big condition on this thing, of course, this is an Artifact Matters card. It won't do anything if you don't have a deck that is built well around it. But this is an incredible payoff that you're probably going to see across multiple formats in these artifact decks. Even in Modern, I could definitely see this seeing play. This one is, yeah, quite the Planeswalker. All right. That's going to be it for me for today with this blue set review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and follow or subscribe. Twitch is follow, Instagram is follow, Twitter is follow, not YouTube. It's just subscribe. All right, guys. Glad you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, have a good one.